Hello everyone, good morning and welcome to today's morning report charts appraisals on Wednesday the 5th of July with me, Richard Perry, market analyst at Handset Markets. We've got a fairly mixed open. We had Wall Street close for Independence Day yesterday and not a great deal of direction today. Let me show you the board here where Euro is basically flat, Sterling mildly weaker. Dollar has sort of picked up a touch in the last sort of couple of hours or so. Earlier sort of looked a little bit corrective, but it certainly seems to have turned a little bit of a corner, and that's interesting because that's come as, let me just show you, Treasury yields have just picked up again. They had sort of dropped back a little bit earlier, and they've just sort of come back higher again, and that's allowed this dollar to sort of pick up again. But certainly the sort of improvement in the dollar that we've seen sort of in the first few days of this week remains in play. And that is again sort of turning around earlier gains that we saw on gold and silver. Silver is my chart of the day. I'll talk about that in a bit. In terms of your your indices, basically not a great deal of direction at all. Again, lack of direction from Wall Street being closed yesterday. Asian markets flat overnight or mildly higher, but generally again lacking direction. So I think we're sort of waiting out for this sort of move sort of today from Wall Street and see how that takes us. But again, oil price actually just dropped a little bit in the last few minutes, but generally speaking relatively stable. So generally speaking, markets are sort of lacking a little bit of direction early doors today. Now what we have got is a bit of economic data today, not a huge amount. You've got or we've had earlier on the services PMIs and the composite PMIs for the European nations. Generally speaking, pretty positive still on the Eurozone data. Eurozone composite PMI 56.3, that's pretty positive, isn't it? UK services dropping back 53.4. Now that's sort of a second month in a row of declines, and it sort of shows a deteriorating trend really that we're seeing on that PMI, and it's just falling away a touch now, and it is becoming a little bit more of a concern. And growth for second quarter running at around about an expectation of around about 0.4% at the moment, but going into sort of third quarter it doesn't look as though that the momentum is being held, and it's just rolling over on those PMIs the last sort of couple of months. So that takes us to the US data, which this afternoon is basically factory orders really, is the main focus there. Factory orders 0.5% negative on the month after dropping 0.2% last month. But 7 o'clock this evening we've also got the Fed minutes. Fed minutes will be important because we had obviously the Fed raising rates last month, and also last meeting also talking about balance sheet reduction. Now the market will obviously want a bit more information on that, but also more information about how the Fed views inflation, because obviously inflation has been a bit of a disappointment in the US, and the Fed continues to sort of focus on its sort of expectation that the inflation sort of drop away is transitory and could start to pick up in the second half of this year. Then the expectation of a December rate hike will continue to increase. So that takes me to my chart today, silver. Now silver and gold have both been under pressure. Sharp downside break on Monday. Not really recovered yet. And look at that sort of candle that we've got so far today. A basis of support building around that 1601 level. But the resistance is overhead, around 1640, 1630, 1640 area. But look at these momentum indicators. Sort of that bear kiss on the MACD lines, the RSI at 30. Now 30 isn't historically that stretched. If you sort of ignore that May level, 30 tends to be a little bit limiting, doesn't it? But obviously we had that huge sell-off in May, successive run of negative bear candles throughout late April, early May. Now, if the sort of silver is sort of seemingly going to break down that support of the May low, you could see further weakness and the floodgates reopen again back towards that 1559 level that we saw back in December. So these are big lows on the silver price. Look at historically, these are big lows, and a breakdown below 1601 today would certainly put pressure on that, and 1601 is where we see at the moment, but stochastics negative, MACD lines negative, RSI pretty negative, so it all looks pretty much as though that we are going to get serious testing of that support, and as we speak it is being seen. So rallies being sold into 1622 today, but generally around 1630, 1640 were the lows that old lows that we saw in May and June, which broke down on Monday. So that becomes the basis of resistance again. So yeah, selling into strength seems to be the way to play silver at the moment. So with that in mind, I wish you good luck in your trading, and I will speak to you later. Thank you.